Okay, good morning, students. So we are in the final lesson of grade 10, lesson number 12, correction of accounting errors. So we already completed several points respect to accounting errors that affect the agreement of trial balance last week. And today we will be finishing off this section. Okay. So firstly, we learned about the accounting errors that do not affect the agreement of the trial balance. Again, even if you do a mistake, it will not reflect in trial balance. So you cannot catch that mistake from the trial balance. You cannot trace that mistake from the trial balance. But this type of errors, if you do it, there will be some difference in the trial balance. Meaningly, debit side and the credit side will not be equal in the trial balance. Okay. So a difference would arise between the total of the debit and credit columns of the trial balance due to certain errors that had occurred in the process of accounting. So these are the uh, errors known as the errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. So here, what we have to do is we will have to check the ledger accounts to identify those errors. Okay. So what happens is once you have to check these individual ledger accounts, it will take a considerable time. It will take a lot of time for you to trace these accounts. Because of that, what you are doing is you are creating a suspense account and you are posting that difference into the suspense account. So in case you have errors that affect the agreement of trial balance, you create a suspense account and you post those differences into the suspense account. Okay. So suspense account is a new thing that we learned when we are going to do the accounting errors that affect the agreement of trial balance. So when there is a difference between the total of the debit and the credit balances in the trial balance, that difference is recorded temporarily into the account called suspense account. Okay. Simply, suspense account is the account where you record if you have when you take the trial balance, if there is a difference between the debit side and the credit side, then you are creating a separate account called suspense account and you're posting that difference into the suspense account and subsequently posting it to the ledger account. So suspense account එක කොහොමද හදන්නේ කියලා we learned. Okay, first we identify the difference between debit and the credit side of the trial balance. Okay, then we that difference, okay, we are inserting that difference on the side where the deficit exists. ඒ කියන්නේ short එක තියෙන තැන where there is a short, we are inserting that difference and we name the reason for that difference as the suspense account. Okay, as the reason for this shortage is not known yet, we write the word suspense account. We don't know the reason for that. Because of that, we name it as suspense account. Okay, then we record that amount, the shortage, in a separate suspense account, separate ledger account. Okay. Uh, so we learned in this case, if you look at this trial balance, if you look at the debit side and the credit side, okay, you have here a difference of 5,000. In simply, debit side is in short or in deficit of 5,000 compared to the credit side. So what you do is you write that short amount or that deficit amount or that difference on the short side. Okay, you write that difference in the side that you have a shortage. Okay, and you name it as suspense account since you don't know the reason. And on the other hand, you will be creating a separate ledger account naming suspense account. So what you do, you check the balances of the debit side and the credit side, and then you see a difference. Okay, here in this case 5,000, you record that difference in the side where you have a shortage or you have a deficit, and you name it as suspense account as you do not know the reason, and then you create a separate account called suspense account. Okay, so now we are going to learn about how to correct these errors or simply the accounting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. Okay, now we are going to see how we are going to correct these accounting errors. Okay, so to correct those accounting errors, you should identify the reasons for this account. Okay, there are several reasons. Simply, we are going to learn about 5 reasons. So the first three we already learned in the class. First one being omission of one entry from the book. So let's see what is happening. Now payment of telephone charges of 15,000 has been recorded only in the cash book. Okay, so what has happened is you have made a payment of 15,000 and you have only recorded it in the cash book. So what happens is cash book is an asset account, and if your asset balance is going down, you are crediting your account. So you have credited your cash account by 15,000. Then what happens is your debit side, okay, the telephone charges expense account you have not debited. Now what is happening is when you check your trial balance, you have a higher balance in the credit side compared to the debit side. Okay, you have a higher balance in the credit side compared to the debit side because you have not recorded it. ඔයා ඒක රෙකෝඩ් කරපු නැති නිසා ඩෙබිට් සයිඩ් එකේ අර ඩෙබිට් සයිඩ් එකේ පොඩි ඩෙෆිසිට් එකක් තියෙනවා. ෂෝටේජ් එකක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ක්‍රෙඩිට් සයිඩ් එකට ඔයා රෙකෝඩ් කරපු නිසා you have a excess amount of 15,000 compared to debit side. Okay, let's see what we are going to do with that. Here, the relevant value is not debited to the telephone charges account. Therefore, telephone charges account should be debited to correct the error. Okay, we have to debit the telephone charges account to correct the error. On the other hand, cash book is already debited, already credited correctly. Okay, so total of the debit column of the trial balance is less rupees 15,000 due to this error, as I said. As a result, debit balance of 15,000 appear in the suspense account. Arapi kata una wage, the difference is 15,000 and we record that difference in the short side or in the deficit side. Okay. Therefore, we have to record it in the debit side. Okay. So accordingly, relevant general journal entry correct to this error is shown below, and let's check out that. Okay, what you are going to do is you are correctly debiting your telephone charges account. Okay, then we are calling telephone charges account එක debit කරලා තිබ්බේ නැහැනේ. So you are correctly debiting telephone charges account, and then what you are doing is you are crediting the suspense account. Okay. So we have recorded the note for that. Okay. Then we learned about the second thing. Jait meka තේරුණාද ඔයාට? Did you understand it? Do you have any questions from this area? Let me pause the recording for 1 second. Okay, then we are going for the second point. Second point is making one of the double entries with the correct value and other entry with the incorrect value of transaction. Okay, you have the double entries. Okay, you are making the one entry with the correct value and the other entry incorrect value. ඒ කියන්නේ double entry එකේ එක entry එකක් ඔයා හරියට pass කරලා තියෙනවා. Second entry you have recorded it erroneously. So let's take an example. For example, cash sales of 54,000, okay, has been debited to the cash book correctly. So cash book you have debited it correctly. Has been credited incorrectly as 45,000 in the sales account. But sales account, what has happened is you have credited it incorrectly. So here, what you are doing is sales account has been credited less rupees 9,000. Okay, එතකොට sales account එක 9,000 lesser amount එකෙන් තමයි credit කරලා තියෙන්නේ, right? Due to crediting 9,000 less in the sales account, the total of the credit column of the trial balance is 9,000 less, and balance of that 9,000 would appear in the credit side of the suspense account. Okay. Then මේකෙදි මොකක්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? cash sale එකක් කරනවා. They are doing a cash sale for 54,000. Cash side, they have recorded it correctly. But if you look at the sales side where you have to credit, you have recorded it only 45,000 and you have credited it less 9,000. Okay, you should have credited it 54,000, but you have credited it only 45,000. ඔයා 54,000 credit කරන්න ඕනේ, but you have credited it only 45,000, which is 9,000 short. Okay, so what happens is now sales account, the credit side is 9,000 less. Okay, credit side එක 9,000 less. එතකොට debit side එක 9,000 වලින් excess වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. So due to crediting 9,000 less in the sales account, total credit column of the trial balance is 9,000 less. Okay, that 9,000 lesser amount, that difference, Here the difference is 9,000 and we have to record the difference in the short side or deficit side. Okay, therefore we are recording that 9,000 on the credit side of the trial balance and we are recording it as suspense account. Now we have to correct it. To correct this account, what we have to do is we have to debit the suspense account. Then suspense account එකේ තියෙන credit balance එකක්. මොකද sales account එක අපි අඩුවෙන් record කරේ. ඒ අඩුවෙන් record කරපු 9,000 එක credit entry එකක් විදියට sales suspense account එකේ තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ suspense account එක අපි clear කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට what we have to do is we have to debit the suspense account and that 9,000 correct credit, okay, that should be posted into the sales account. That should be posted into the sales account. Okay, so let's how the entries are passed. So now we have a 9,000 credit in the suspense account. හරිද? ඒ කියන්නේ අර වෙනස අඩු පැත්ත ලියපු නිසා අපිට 9,000 credit එක තියෙනවා. අපි ඒක debit කරගන්නවා suspense account එක and sales account we are crediting by 9,000. අර මොකද අපි අඩුවෙන් sales account එක credit කරලා තිබ්බේ. We have credited the sales account in a lesser account. So to correct that, we have credited sales account 45,000, but correct amount should be 54,000. To correct that, we are passing that credit entry to sales account. Okay. Okay. Then second point also we learned, and then third one, recording of double entries of a transaction in the same side of the account. Okay, double entry ka same side එකේ තමයි record කරලා තියෙන්නේ. Let's look at an example for this to better understand. Both the entries of transaction may have been entered in the same side of the accounts in the error. For example, cash received from debtors 5,000 has been debited to both cash book and debtors account. We have received 5,000 from a debtor. What we have done is we have debited both the cash book and the debtors book. Okay, debtors account. Let's look at what should be the correct entry. Correct entry is to debit the cash account because it is you are receiving cash. Cash is an asset, and asset account is increasing, and you are debiting the cash. And debtors is also the asset. When you receive 5,000 from debtors, debtor balance should go down. If the debtor balance is going down, asset balance is going down. If asset balance is going down, you have to credit the account. So ideally, what you should have done is crediting your debtors account. Okay, crediting your debtors account. But what has happened is you have debited it. Without crediting your debtors account, you have debited it. You have debited your debtors account. Okay, so due to the above error, each account has been debited by 5,000. No accounts has been credited. Then මේකේදී මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ? Okay, now your credit side will create a difference of 10,000. Why is that? Because of two reasons. First thing, you have not posted 5,000 correct entry to debtors by crediting it. Okay. Firstly, you have not credited your debtors account by 5,000. One reason. Okay. You have not credited your debtors account. The second reason is you have incorrectly debited your cash account. අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම මේ particular scenario එකේදී ඒ කියන්නේ එකම ඒ කියන්නේ accounts දෙකම debit කරලා තිබුණොත් එහෙම දැන් මෙතන transaction amount එක 5,000 වුණාට difference එක වෙනවා 10,000 because of two reasons. One reason is you have not debited it. You have not credited it. හරිද? ඔයා credit කරලා නැති හින්දා difference එක හදුන 5,000ක්. දෙවෙනි reason එක you have erroneously debited the wrong account. එතකොට ඒක correct කරන්නත් ඕනේනේ. දැන් erroneously debit වුණ එකත් credit කරගන්න ඕනේ. right? එතකොට ඒ නිසා 10,000 difference එකක් හැදෙනවා. හරිද? So accordingly, what you have to do is 10,000 should be debited to cancel the suspense account. And 5,000 should be credited to debtors account to cancel the amount debited incorrectly. In addition, 5,000 should be credited to debtors account to correct the error. Okay. මෙන්න මේ points දෙක තමයි ඒක වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. Okay. Let me further explain it if you do not understand. Okay. Okay, here මොකක්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? Cash received from debtors for rupees 5,000 has been debited to both the cash account and the debtors account. හරිද? එතකොට අපේ correct entry එක වෙන්න ඕනේ. Okay, what cash received from debtors. Okay, debit cash by 5,000 and credit debtors by 5,000. By 5,000. So this should have been the correct entry. Okay, transaction value is 5,000. But now what has happened? Now incorrectly you have debited cash by 5,000. Okay, that is correct. And you have also debited your debtors account. Okay, you have also debited your debtors account by 5,000. Okay, now this is the incorrect one. So to correct this, what should we do? Firstly, we should credit the debtors account. අර වැරදියට debit කරගත්ත 5,000 correct කරගන්නවා. Incorrectly debited 5,000 should be corrected. Okay, for that, first we have to correct the incorrect debit by crediting debtors account rupees 5,000. Okay, then second we have to correctly credit the debtors account by rupees 5,000. See, okay, so when these two things happen, 5,000 plus 5,000, that is 10,000. So this is how. So I hope you understand it. Okay. I hope you understand it, and we wrote the note for that. And from now onwards, we will be learning the fourth point. Okay. So okay, let's look into the fourth point. Let me post the recording and ask you a few questions. Okay, then okay, now we are going to the fourth point. So errors which arise when balancing of the accounts. Let's look at it. Okay, let's look at the example. The correct total of purchase account is 25,000, but erroneously this is posted as 5,000 in the purchases account. So the correct total in the purchases account is 25,000, but erroneously what you have done is you have posted 5,000 in the purchases account. Okay, for this, then the total of the debit column in the trial balance is 20,000 less due to the shortage of 20,000 in the purchase account. Now, therefore, the suspense account has a debit balance of 20,000. And this 20,000 should be credited to the suspense account to cancel this balance, and purchase account should be debited to the purchase account should be debited by 20,000 to correct the purchase account as it is understated by 20,000. Okay. Now let's look at this into the deep. Now you have the purchases account. Okay. Now you have the purchases account. Okay. Purchases account, the correct total is 25,000. Okay. Purchases account, the correct total is 25,000. But now what happened is you have incorrectly totaled it to 5,000. Purchases account के correct total like 25,000. Incorrectly you have totaled it to 5,000. So what happens is purchases account is a expense account. Therefore it should have debit balance. Then my debit balance के 20,000 short. 20,000 short in debit balance. when you have 20,000 difference, or when you have a difference of 20,000 and that difference is a short in the debit side, then which side you should record it in the suspense account? If you are creating a suspense account, okay, what kind of a balance it should carry? Should it be a credit balance or should it be a debit balance? Okay, suspense account එකේ තියෙන්න පුළුවන් debit balance එකද credit balance එකද? Can you tell me? Just give it a shot so I can explain it.
Credit card.
No, actually here now look at this now. Purchases account is a expense account. The correct value is 25,000. Now what has happened is you have recorded 5,000. So your debit side is 20,000 in short. Then debit side එක ගත්තම debit side එක 20000ක් අඩුයි. Debit side is 20,000 short. Now you have to create the suspense account to cover up that short, no? So suspense account will carry a debit balance of 20,000. Now when you create a trial balance and when you total it, on debit side, you will have 20,000 short compared to the credit side. Mokada make a purchase. Now they have incorrectly totaled their purchase account. Let's say this is a cash purchase. Okay. Let's say this is a cash purchase. Then your credit side, okay, credit side is correct. So now let's say you have only one entry in this business. Okay. One entry in the business and the entry is you purchase goods on cash. Okay. Now let's say you have one entry. Okay. So that is you credit your cash account by 25,000 and you debit your purchase account incorrect. Your debit your purchase account by 25,000. Okay. Now this is what is happening. Okay. Then incorrectly what you have done is you have recorded this. What you have totaled it as 5,000. You have incorrectly totaled it 5,000. Okay. So your your credit side is 20,000 excess. When you make your draw the trial balance, okay, when you draw the trial balance, okay, your debit side is higher than your debit side is shorter than the credit side. Okay, debit side එක 5000ක් 20000ක් අඩුයි. Debit side එක 20000ක් අඩුයි. Therefore, what you do is you are creating a suspense account and passing that value to suspense account. Okay. So now to correct that, what you should do is now that incorrectly total value, it should be passed to your purchases account. So purchases account should be debited by 20,000 and suspense account that incorrectly debited one. Now suspense account, you have a balance of 20,000. That balance has to be reversed. Okay. That you will be crediting. Okay. This is how journal entries will be passed. Okay. Okay. Let's write down the note. Let me pause the video and ask you a few questions. Okay. Okay. Let me repeat that example again. Okay. Now what has happened? Now what has happened is the correct total of the purchase account is 25,000. That has been erroneously posted as rupees 5,000 in the purchase account. Okay. Now correctly, purchases account should carry 25,000, but erroneously what has happened is you have totaled it as 5,000 in the purchase account. Okay. Now let's say we have only one single entry in the books. Okay. We have only one entry. Mulu potema වෙලා තියෙන one single entry. Let's say we have only one entry. one entry. Let's say we have only one transaction in the accounting books. Then what should happen? Let's say it is a cash purchase. Okay. If it is a cash purchase, okay, let's say it is a cash purchase of cash purchases of 25,000. Then what should happen? You should credit your cash account. You should debit your purchase account by 25,000 and credit your cash account by 25,000. Okay. Now, if this happen, what happen? Debit side is equal to credit side. So nothing to worry. Okay. Now it is all balanced. But unfortunately, what has happened? You have debited your purchases account only by 5,000. I mean, the total in the purchases account now is 5,000. So debit 1,000 is 5,000 and cash side you have 25,000 as usual. Okay. Debit side is 5,000 and cash debit side is 5,000 and credit side is 25,000 now. Okay. Say due to error. Now this debit side is 5,000 and credit side is 25,000 as usual. Okay. Then when we find out this in the trial balance, what we should do? We should create a suspense account. No? So we have to create a suspense account. So what we do is we create 20,000. Then now we have a problem. No? To rectify this, what we do is we are debiting suspense account by 20,000. Then this will be okay. Okay, because this 5,000 and 20,000 being added, 25,000. So trial balance is all balance. Okay. Now we have to correct this. Now at the end of the accounting period, we are finding that there is a 20,000 debit balance in the suspense account. So now we have to correct it. We cannot have a suspense. We cannot have a balance in the suspense account. Simply, our suspense account balance should be 0. Okay. So to correct that, what should we do? Now the total of the purchases is 25,000. We have recorded only 5,000. We have recorded only 5,000 by erroneously totaling it. Okay. So to correct that, we should add 20,000 debit to the purchases account. Okay. From the general journal, we have to debit the purchases account by 20,000. Okay. Now purchases account was only 5,000. Okay, correct is 25,000. To correct that, we have to debit 20,000 correctly. And then on the other side, we have a debit balance in the suspense account. No? That should be credited, and suspense account we are crediting by 20,000. We are doing this via the general journal as shown here. So purchases account we are debiting by 20,000 and suspense account we are crediting 20,000. Okay. Just give me a second. And let me ask you a few questions again. Let me pause the recording. Okay. So this particular thing, okay, this debiting of purchases account by 20,000 and crediting suspense account by 20,000 and reversing the balance in the 20,000, you are doing it on the general journal and you are recording it as correction of erroneous total of rupees 5,000 in the purchases account for the correct value of rupees 25,000. Okay, let's write this point. Put the subheading as correction of accounting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. correction of accounting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. Put the subheading. Okay. So we have to write this. I will read it out. You have to write this complete part. Okay. Errors which arise when balancing of account. Errors which arise when balancing of account. එතකොට accounts balance off කරද්දි වෙච්ච errors තමයි මෙතෙන්දී correct කරගන්නේ. The correct total of the purchaser's account is rupees 25,000 and it has been erroneously total posted as 5,000 in the purchase account. Okay. This error is happening inside the purchase account. Okay. Now when you look at the purchase account itself has the error. Okay. So therefore, the total of the debit column of the trial balance is 20,000. The total of the debit column of the trial balance is 20,000 less due to the shortage of 20,000 in the purchase account. So the total of the debit column of the trial balance is 20,000 less. Why? Because of the shortage of 20,000 in the purchases account. Why 20,000 shortage in the purchases account? You have erroneously totaled 25,000 as 5,000. Okay. Then therefore, the suspense account has a debit balance of 20,000. So because of that, suspense account has a debit balance of 20,000. Why? Because shortage is in the debit side. That difference is a 20,000 and that difference is a shortage on the debit side. So because of that, you record it in the suspense account on the debit side. So rupees 20,000 should be credited to the suspense account to cancel this balance. Rupees 20,000 should be credited to the suspense account to cancel this balance. Now we have 20,000 debit in the suspense account. So you should reverse it. To reverse that, what you should do is 20,000 should be credited to the suspense account. And purchase account should be debited by rupees 20,000 to correct the purchase account as it is understated by 20,000. Okay. Then purchase account has to be debited by 20,000 as there is only 5,000 been recorded. Okay. So please write this and draw this diagram or the general diagram account. Okay, next move on to the final point. The accounting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. So we are looking at how to correct the accounting errors that affect the agreement of trial balance. So errors that arise when preparing the trial balance. Errors that arise when preparing the trial balance. Trial balance එක prepare කරද්දී තමයි මේ errors ටික එන්නේ. Okay. එන්න පුළුවන්. Although all ledger accounts are corrected, there is a possibility of errors occur when preparing the trial balance. So all the ledger accounts are in order, but only when preparing the trial balance. Following errors may occur when preparing the trial balance. Certain account balances have not been extracted to the trial balance. Entering incorrect value of account balance in the trial balance. Entering the value of the accounting balance in the incorrect column of the trial balance. These are the errors that may occur when preparing trial balance. For instance, certain account balances could not be taken, might not have been taken. So you have omitted it. Okay. Or else you have taken, like when you are entering, you are recording an incorrect value. For like example, let's say account balance in the ledger account was purchases account debit 50,000. You record it as 5,000. Then that you are recording an incorrect value. Then entering value of the account balances in the incorrect column. For example, let's say you have a debit balance in the purchaser's account, which is 50,000. You are recording it on the credit side of the trial balance. So these are the errors that may occur when preparing the trial balance. Errors that occur when the trial balance is prepared have a specific feature in the correction when compared to others. හැබැයි මෙන්න මේ වගේ errors correct කරද්දී පොඩි specific feature එකක් තියෙනවා. Here no errors have been found in the relevant ledger accounts. So they don't have any problem in the ledger account. Previously, we had errors in the ledger account. For example, you have totaled the ledger account incorrectly. Likewise, okay. Here, the error has occurred only in the trial balance. Trial balance के भीतर में error है. Therefore, correction of ledger account is not required. Ledger account को correct करना आवश्यक नहीं. Nevertheless, the differences in the totals of the trial balance have to be recorded in the suspense account. However, that difference in the trial balance will be recorded in a suspense account as usual. Okay. So let's look at an example. The balance in the building rent expense account of rupees 10,000 has not been extracted to the trial balance. So you have a building rent expense account which has a 10,000 debit balance. So that debit balance is not taken. Okay. Here there is no impact on the building rent expense account. uh, it is not necessary to correct it. However, the suspense account has a debit balance due to the debit column of the trial balance being understated by 10,000. Therefore, the error of understatement can be cancelled by crediting 10,000 to the suspense account and entering the building rent expense account to the trial balance. Okay. Now here, okay, this is what is important. Now, what has happened? The balance in the building rent expense account of rupees 10,000 has not been extracted to the trial balance. You have 10,000 debit balance in the rent expense account. You have not taken it to the trial balance. So what happens on the trial balance and in the trial balance, there will be a difference of 10,000. And that difference will be appear as suspense account on the debit side, because debit side is a side where you have the shortage or the deficit, because you have not taken a debit entry to the trial balance. No, you have not taken a debit amount to the trial balance. So because of that, there will be a shortage on the debit side. So what you do, you identify the difference and you just post it on the side you have the shortage, that is a debit side. And then here what you have to do is, now that is the error, then we have to correct it. Here you just have to credit the suspense account. You are just crediting the suspense account and you don't have any other entry, because you don't have a problem in any ledger account. Okay, it's simple as that. So when correcting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance, one entry is recorded in the suspense account and the other entry is recorded in the relevant ledger account. Okay. However, when correcting errors which do not affect the agreement of the trial balance, only two accounts which has been affected should be identified and corrected. No entries are required to suspense account. So in simple form, you create the suspense account only when you have accounting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance. Okay, so if you do not have if the accounting errors do not affect the trial balance, you do not create a suspense account. Instead, you adjust the relevant account accordingly. Okay, relevant ledger accounts accordingly. So let me post the video and ask you a few questions. Okay, let's write the note. You can put the subheading as errors that arise when preparing the trial balance. So I will read this out again. Example, the balance in the building rent expense account of rupees 10,000 has not been extracted to the trial balance. No, we have to write the note from the above point itself. 1 second, okay? So you can put the subheading as errors that arise when preparing the trial balance. Although all ledger accounts are corrected, there is a possibility of errors to occur when preparing a trial balance. Although all ledger accounts are correct, there is a possibility of errors to occur when preparing the trial balance. Following errors may occur when preparing the trial balance. Certain account balances have not been extracted to the trial balance. Entering incorrect value of account balance in the trial balance, entering value of the account balance to the incorrect column. Okay, you have not been extracted. Okay, you have not completely extracted, or you are recording an incorrect value, or you are recording it in a incorrect column. So these are the three things. Errors that may occur when the trial balance is prepared have a specific feature in correction when compared with the others. Here, no errors have occurred in the relevant ledger accounts. Errors had occurred only in the trial balance. Therefore, correction of ledger accounts is not required. Nevertheless, the difference in the total of the trial balance has to be recorded in the suspense account. Okay. No errors has been recorded in the ledger accounts. Error has been recorded only in the trial balance. Therefore, correction of ledger account is not required. However, the difference in the totals of the trial balance have to be recorded in the suspense account. Okay. Okay. Then you can write this. මෙතන මේ last point එක කියන්නේ trial balance එකේ columns දෙකේ difference එක suspense account එකේ record කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. කියන්නේ ledger accounts correct කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි suspense account එක අර පුරුදු විදිහට record කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? You can write this and complete the note. Take 5 minutes since we have to do a few more things today. Take 5 minutes and complete this. Okay, let's write the next slide. So, for example, the balance in the building rent expense account of rupees 10,000 has not been extracted to the trial balance. So, the first thing, certain account balance has not been extracted to the trial balance. Okay, first thing. The balance in the building rent expense account of rupees 10,000 has not been extracted to the trial balance. Here, as there is no impact on the building rent expense account, it is not necessary to correct it. So ledger account, we are not going to touch it. However, the suspense account has a debit balance due to debit column of the trial balance being understated by 10,000. මොකද record කරේ and we have not recorded it. So the debit balance is in short. To rectify it, we are recording uh, 10,000 in the suspense account. Okay. Now we have to correct that debit balance in the suspense account. So therefore, the error of understatement can be cancelled by crediting 10,000 to suspense account and entering the building rent expense account to the trial balance. Okay. So you can put as suspense account credit rupees 10,000 and you can draw the general journal. Then please write this. When correcting errors that affect the agreement of the trial balance, one entry is recorded in the suspense account and the other entry is recorded in the relevant ledger account. However, when correcting the errors which do not affect the agreement of the trial balance, only two accounts which are affected should be identified and corrected, and no entries are required in the suspense account. Okay, please write this. සස්පෙන්ස් account එක හදලා වෙලා සස්පෙන්ස් account එක ඩෙබිට් කරගෙන තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒක නිසා අපි දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ? සස්පෙන්ස් account එකේ ආපු එක රිවර්ස් කරගන්න සස්පෙන්ස් account එක ක්‍රෙඩිට් කරනවා 30,000 වලින්. එතකොට බැංක් ලෝන් account එක ඩෙබිට් කරනවා 30,000 වලින් සස්පෙන්ස් account එක ක්‍රෙඩිට් කරනවා 30,000 වලින්. මෙතෙන්දී මේ සස්පෙන්ස් account එක ක්‍රෙඩිට් කරපු එක මෙතෙන්දී බැංක් ලෝන් account එක කියලා 30,000 වලින් ක්‍රෙඩිට් කරනවා. මේ පොයින්ට් එකත් ලියා ගන්නවා.